Hey everybody, welcome back to Eloy the Saint. It's actually been a bit since the last video that I did, which I believe was back in April. And the reason for that is varied. Lots of stuff has kind of stood in the way of me being, ultra creative, but I did want to come back and in light of kind of what's happening right now, I kind of wanted to talk about a specific topic, and that is basically being black while gaming. Now, one of the things about gaming while black is most of the black people that I know that actually get into gaming pretty much got into gaming through one of their white friends. This is not obviously, it's not true of everybody, but it stands true quite a bit. Role playing would have never been anything that I would have even known existed if it weren't for my friend Adrian Pilkington. I will go ahead and I'm going to name drop him because he's a great guy. And we talk every so often, here and there, even in our adult years. But, I was 13 when I started getting into role playing heavily, but me and him, we had kind of gotten into it, a little bit, even earlier than that. But looking back also, it was always pretty much every group that I was in. Like my first group was me and a bunch of white dudes, and then I played with some other white dudes and a few other white dudes. I did eventually settle on a group that was actually more balanced in terms of gender, so there were a lot of women, but even then it was, I was pretty much still just the only black person. Again, none of that is to say anything bad about any of these gamers. They're all my friends. I had fun with them. But going to conventions, I was hoping that I would have the opportunity to possibly, widen the types of games and stuff that I would be playing and the different types of people and personalities. And what I found was that going to conventions, I'm talking, years and years ago, is that I would still find myself at tables entirely filled with white men. And that's definitely something that I want to applaud a lot of the RPG community. We, as a whole, have definitely started bringing in many, many different types of players and different types of personalities. And if you go to a convention, you're much more likely to have people of color, more women, trans people, like all kinds of different people now at the table when you go to a convention. That said, that's mostly for the larger conventions. If you go to Gen Con or if you go to Origins, you're definitely going to get kind of a variety of different people. However, it still stands with a lot of the smaller conventions, and even just in recent years, where the majority of our community, I mean, this is just the player base as it is, the majority of people who have disposable income and a weekend off and the ability to go to a convention and spend money and spend time there, still mostly white men. it's just kind of crazy. One of the last conventions that I did, I believe it was a couple of years ago. It was over in Texas, if I recall, but I went to the convention and the con organizer was great. All of the people were great. Booths were great, except for a couple of people who kept trying to tell me like their game was the best game design ever and everything else was trash. And I'm like, you're talking to like a game designer, right? It was just weird. But I noticed, and this is something that you notice when you feel like you are an outsider, but I was at this convention, and again, everybody was super nice, but it just felt weird because basically I was one of the only black people, I believe it was me and possibly one other, at this convention, which I had like a few hundred people at it. There were actually quite a few Asian people at this convention, but in terms of black people, I believe it was me, one other person, and then the hotel staff. So all of the people, serving the food and cleaning up after everybody and all that stuff, all the people who worked at the hotel that the convention was being run, I would say like pretty much all of them were black. I didn't see anybody who wasn't black who wasn't wearing that uniform, but a vast majority of the convention goers were not people of color. And it's weird because most people won't ever understand what it feels like to be in a situation like that, where you are going into an area where you don't feel 100% invited, or that you feel like you belong there because almost nobody looks like you. And this is a big deal when it comes to like representation in media and whatnot. And I am rambling here a bit, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just kind of let you guys in, if you happen to not be a person of color watching this video, on what it kind of feels like to be that person who feels like a token. And that doesn't mean that you are a token. Again, I played with my friends, I play with people, whoever shows up at a convention, I play with them. But you know, it can feel like that, where you feel like you're in the wrong place. But again, I think that we've made a lot of strides. I remember the first few years at Gen Con, I would have tables entirely filled with, you know, the norm. And then in the last few years that I went to Gen Con and I ran games, I had, again, more women, more people of color, all of that. Definitely positive strides that we're making here in terms of the player community. Now, if we turn that coin on the other side, though, and we start talking about game designers of color, it's kind of a different bag there. Whereas there has been actually a lot more people coming in to play, there's still just not that many known game designers who are people of color. And it's interesting because in, you know, obviously recent weeks, there's been a lot of, you know, we need to support Black creators and we need to, you know, do more, which I definitely appreciate. A friend of mine, Jerry Grayson, owner of Capera Publishing and co-owner of New Agenda Publishing with me, he posted a thing which I thought was very poignant. And he said, "My dream is to one day be someone's favorite game designer and not their favorite game designer of color." And that hit me because I did notice that my name would get dropped a lot when it came to people saying, you know, "Oh, are there publishers of and designers of color that I should be paying attention to?" Which I love, again. And I noticed that my name got dropped a lot, and Jerry's got dropped a lot, and Misha Bushyeager gets dropped a lot. Eric Long gets dropped a lot. Chris Spivey gets dropped a lot. Janiyah Kemper. There's a few others, but, you know, I'm just listing off the top of my head. There are definitely some Black game designers out there, but that's honestly a recent occurrence. Let me tell you the story of me winning an ENnie in 2017. I won it for Ninja Crusade 2nd Edition. I remember I was very, very nervous. My friend John Kennedy was there, and he's very, very supportive. Great, great person. One of my best friends ever. I remember he was really kind of like making sure that my anxiety levels were low, because I knew that I was going to get up on stage and I was going to accept this award at the ENnies. And I was very, very nervous. I didn't know what I was going to say. Then I get up there, and I bring Carol up with me. I talk way too soon, like before I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to wait and get the medals and stuff and you know, do whatever. But I get up there and I do a whole speech. I dedicate my, you know, win to Prince because it was pretty, you know, recent that he had, you know, passed away. And I wanted everybody to know, you know, obviously that, you know, I kind of model my life after Prince. We'll maybe talk about that in another video. But, you know, it was great kind of seeing everybody really connect. Everybody was very excited for me to win. I saw people crying, you know, in the crowds. That's not anything I've ever seen after anybody's acceptance speeches at an ENnies award. But I got down, and this is a story that I tell sometimes at conventions, but, you know, I might as well go ahead and put it in a video. But basically, I got down, you know, shook hands, gave hugs, but the photographer came up to me and he said, "Dude, congratulations on your award." And I said, "Thank you. I mean, it was a lot of hard work and there was a team effort, you know, doing my whole humble thing." And he says, "I have been here for every ENnie Awards that there has ever been. And this is the first time that I've seen a brother get up on stage and accept an award." And that hit me hard. That hit me really, really hard. And the idea that, you know, it was a judge's pick and not necessarily a real award from the ENnies, I think just getting up there, it made a difference, you know? So after I learned that, I was dumbfounded. I didn't realize that I was basically the first Black game designer to win an ENnie and go up there and accept it. And I'm sure that there were Black people who were like parts of teams and stuff like that. And it made it so that my new mission was kind of that I wanted to make sure that more people of color start entering the industry and start being in a position where they can go up there and accept an award. Or even just that their name is more known. I believe that there's definitely a disparity here when it comes to that. And that was part of the reason why we ended up starting New Agenda. Because when I won that award, I decided to go on Google Plus, because Google Plus was a thing at that point. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start a private group and I'm going to invite as many Black game designers as I could. And when I was done, I think we had maybe 11 or 12 members, and I think more like about half of those were Black artists, but not Black game designers. And that was definitely disheartening. Like it hit me really hard, and it hurt that there just basically just weren't that many of us. And I love the fact again that since then there's definitely been more. The next year at the ENnies, I won another judge's choice. I was very happy about that as well. So I got to go up again, talk more about Prince. But also Chris Spivey ended up winning for his Harlem Unbound. You know, in 2017 it was 1, 2018 it was 2. I actually didn't attend the next year after that. So I don't actually, I'll have to maybe go back and check and see who ended up winning anything else. But I think that that's kind of creating a great forward momentum to really getting more people of color in the gaming industry. Like, we're actually getting a lot more people who are gaming, but we need more creators, we need more business owners, we need people like that. And again, that's what kind of New Agenda is about, is we are kind of creating a game from scratch, and it's going to be a brand new experience that's overrun. And when that comes out, which hopefully will be soon, we will then start actually opening up the doors to start kind of taking in some new projects, and again, giving more Black game designers a shot at being able to, you know, like either publish their own things or have them as part of a team to help us all create something together. So I see a lot of positive movement, and it's exciting that I can hope to go to more conventions and see myself reflected. Like, I remember one of my very first games I sold at Gen Con at one of my own booths was a Black dude who came up and he said, "Oh my gosh, a Black game designer, what game do you have that I can buy?" Because that gamer was looking for someone to support and somebody who represented them, and they wanted to see more of that. So obviously money is a great way to do that. And it's cool that there's more representation in the books themselves, like more art, different kind of more pre-gens that are of different backgrounds and whatnot. And obviously some of it is genuine, some of it is most likely pandering or people thinking, oh, I have to do this now, otherwise nobody will buy my book, or, you know, whatever. But I think on the whole, it's definitely a positive thing. But, you know, representation in the art and pre-gens and stuff like that isn't the same as having Black game designers really work on a project. You're going to end up with a much different product if you include people of lots of different backgrounds in that product. And that's not even to say that, like, oh, there's a quota, make sure you have a Black person on every design team. But if you have the opportunity, it's much better to include those different voices in your work than it would be to not. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling here. You know, the topic of like being Black in the gaming industry, in the gaming hobby as a whole, it is a weird one, but there's a lot of different angles that you can take on this. I do hope that you enjoyed this talk, and I'll be back with more stuff soon. So very excited about that, and I'll check you out next time.